The shuttle's ramp hissed open, releasing a puff of coolant vapor that curled around the boots of Earth's finest. 4 Navy SEALs stepped onto the red-soiled landing zone like they owned it. Despite being surrounded by 100 towering, armored aliens with faces like stone carvings and eyes like molten gold. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rivas adjusted her sunglasses, completely unnecessary under the artificial atmosphere of the training planet, but essential to her image. She scanned the crowd of Dravari warriors who stood in rigid, ceremonial formation, their ornamental armor gleaming beneath the binary suns. "Smile, boys and girls," she muttered into her comm. "We're making history. Or insulting someone's grandmother. Hard to tell with these guys." Chief Petty Officer Masonew, called Sign Wrench, gave a soft snort. He was already eyeing the alien tech surrounding the landing zone. 10 cred says I can hotwire one of those tanks by lunch. "Do it, and I'll paint flames on the side," said Petty Officer Tasha Morgan, Spook, who had already disappeared into the shadows of the shuttle's undercarriage, somehow finding cover where there was none. Petty Officer David Ramos, ever the dreamer, adjusted the strap on his long rifle. He was the tallest of the bunch, lanky, with a face that looked more suited for a philosophy lecture than combat. "Let's try not to start a war today. These guys think honor's a real thing." A guttural voice boomed across the field. "Earthlings, welcome. Try not to die." The Dravari commander stepped forward, 8 feet tall, all muscle and menace. His name was General Koromak, and his armor bore the scars of at least 24 campaigns. His tone had the amused attachment of someone addressing a species slightly more intelligent than houseplants. "This is a joint combat exercise. We do not coddle. We do not adapt. We endure." Rivas kept her face neutral. "That's adorable. We improvise, adapt, and overcome. You'll love it." Koromak sneered, then motioned toward the jungle terrain stretching out beyond the base perimeter. "Our war simulators will release autonomous insurgent drones shortly. You are permitted to observe from the rear." "Hard pass," Rivas replied. "We're here to play." Koromak looked down at her, as if trying to discern whether she was joking or suicidal. "You believe 4 of your kind can match 30 of mine?" "We've had practice," Rivas said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. An hour later, the war games began and immediately went to hell. The insurgent drones dropped from orbit in sleek black pods that hissed open with mechanical efficiency. They scattered into the jungle with terrifying coordination. Within minutes, Koromak's front units were pinned down by suppressive fire, their rigid formations useless in the shifting terrain. Rivas watched from a ridge, chewing gum like it was tactical. "Permission to laugh?" Spook whispered through comms. "Not yet," Rivas replied. "Wrench, give me a sitrep." I tapped into the drone feed, Wrench said, fingers flying across his wrist pad. "They're using adaptive targeting algorithms. Every time the Dravari try the same approach, the drones adjust faster." Ramos exhaled slowly through his nose. "Predictability is a death sentence. Told you honor was overrated." Below, the Dravari fell back in disarray. One squad was completely cut off, pinned in a ravine. They were supposed to be the best warriors in the quadrant, and they were getting embarrassed by machines. Rivas tapped her comm, Spook. "How fast can you ghost into that ravine?" "Already halfway down." "I love it when she does that," Wrench muttered. The SEALs moved. No formation. No orders barked. Just pure practice chaos. Spook used a friction line and some foliage to rappel silently into the ravine. She dropped smoke canisters laced with a cocktail of scents mimicking Dravari pheromones, throwing the drones into a frenzy of misidentification. While the machines confused friend and foe, Wrench hacked a comm relay tower, using a borrowed Dravari helmet as an interface key, and turned it into a signal jammer. The drone's coordination faltered. Ramos, perched in the tree canopy, began picking them off one by one, each shot silent, surgical. His calm breathing was the only sound in his comm channel. And Rivas? She walked straight down the hill like she was late to a meeting, lobbed 2 EMP grenades, and knocked out the last remaining drone cluster before the Dravari even realized she was there. Silence fell over the ravine. One of the Dravari, young, injured, humiliated, looked up at Rivas and rasped, "You do not fight with honor." She knelt beside him, handed him a medstim, and grinned. "Nope, we fight to win." Back at the base, General Koromak stood motionless as the simulation stats streamed in. 42% of his forces would have been lost in a real engagement. The SEALs? 0 casualties, maximum efficiency. They cheated. One Dravari officer grumbled. They used stealth, misinformation, repurposed tech, trickery. "It's called creativity," Wrench muttered, not looking up from the drone piece he was already dismantling like it was a Lego set. "They fight like criminals," Koromak growled. "Funny thing," Rivas said as she removed her sunglasses. "You call it chaos. We call it Tuesday." Koromak glared at her. "This is only the beginning. The AI insurgents will adapt. The next phase will be far more aggressive." Rivas nodded, already turning back toward her team. "Good. So will we." The binary suns dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the training fields. The war games weren't over. They'd barely begun. The jungle was louder now, not with sound, though the crackle of plasma and drone chatter echoed across the ravines, but with tension. Even the insects, artificial though they were, seemed to buzz with urgency as the war game's next phase began. Lieutenant Commander Rivas crouched beside a hollow tree, scanning the tactical overlay on her visor. The Dravari had refused to break formation, even after the losses in the first simulation. Predictable, proud, and, apparently, gluttons for punishment. "Status?" she asked over comms. "Wrench reporting," you whispered, crouched beside a gutted drone carcass. "They've upgraded the AI units. Faster processing, predictive routing, and someone gave them a taste for ambush tactics. I feel personally attacked." "Spook here," K. Morgan's voice, casual as always. "I'm 2 clicks behind Dravari Squad Delta. They're about to walk into a kill zone. Again." "Ramos," said the sniper, his voice slow and thoughtful. "Watching Bravo Squad. They're adapting, just poorly. They're trying to outflank the AI, but the drones are already flanking them back." Rivas exhaled. The game was rigged, but that was the point. "All right, kids," she said. "Time to play dirty." They hit the battlefield like chaos bottled and shaken. Dravari Squad Delta marched in perfect rhythm down a narrow river gorge, right into the trap Spook had warned about. The drones descended like a swarm, sleek metal bodies, slipping through underbrush with eerie precision. And then the world went white. EMP mines, repurposed from downed drone cores and hidden inside river reeds, detonated, shorting the drones mid-pounce. Several fell into the water with sparks and sputters, twitching like upended beetles. Delta Squad stared in stunned silence. Then Spook strolled out of the jungle, brushing moss from her sleeve. "You're welcome," she said, tossing a wink at the nearest Dravari. "Next time, try looking where you're going." Elsewhere, Wrench had been busy. Pinned behind a half-collapsed rock formation, Bravo Squad had been under fire for 15 minutes. Their commander barked orders through clenched mandibles, demanding a push forward into superior firepower. Until Wrench appeared, clad in half a drone exosuit and carrying what looked like a microwave duct taped to an alien energy cell. He ducked into cover beside the commander. "What is that?" the Dravari asked suspiciously. "Hope," Wrench grinned. Then he tossed the device over the ridge. The explosion wasn't flashy, but it was effective. The jury-rigged magnetic pulse reversed the polarity of the drone's motion sensors, causing them to spin in place like confused ballerinas. The SEAL chuckled. "Sometimes stupid works." By mid-afternoon, murmurs had spread through Dravari ranks. Not about human dishonor this time, but about their results. The SEALs weren't just surviving, they were winning. And they weren't following any rules the Dravari recognized. Commander Koromak watched the feeds from a command post, silent and tight-jawed. "They disrespect structure," growled his adjutant. "Their tactics are reckless, reactive." "Effective," Koromak interrupted. He turned as someone entered the tent, a junior warrior named Veshka, his arm wrapped in a crude sling. "You were with Delta Squad," Koromak said. Veshka nodded. "The human, Morgan, she saved us." "She risked herself to protect another unit?" No, sir. She planned for us to fail. Then she saved us anyway. Koromak stared, unsettled. They prepare for failure. Veshka bowed his head. They assume it's inevitable. Later, under the amber light of the twin suns, Ramos found Veshka sitting alone atop a ridge, overlooking the simulated valley below. Nice view, Ramos said, settling beside him. The Dravari didn't reply. I read once the human military doctrine revolves around the chaos of war. Ramos continued. There's a saying, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Veshka turned. We are taught that a true warrior shapes the battlefield, controls it. Control is an illusion, Ramos said softly. The moment you think you've got it, it slips through your fingers. He pulled a protein bar from his pouch and held it out. Veshka took it reluctantly. Tastes like tree bark, Ramos warned. But with protein. The warrior bit in and immediately grimaced. See, Ramos grinned. Told you, we're used to suffering. For the first time, Veshka laughed. Just a little. As night fell, the terrain shifted. The simulation AI activated a new phase. Insurgents now use camo skins, fake distress signals, and captured tech. The battlefield was changing. The enemy had learned. Rivas convened a quick huddle beneath a rocky outcrop. They've started mimicking our tactics, she said, eyes narrow. Copycats, Spook said, loading another magazine. We poke the beast, it evolves, Wrench added. So, we out-evolve it. Ramos looked at Veshka, who had joined them quietly, still unsure whether he was part of the team. We improvise, Ramos said. It's what we do. Veshka hesitated, then nodded. Teach me. Rivas clapped a hand on his shoulder. Stick close. We're about to make things very weird. They moved at night like ghosts. Holographic decoys projected by Spook lured drones into a cave, where Wrench had set up improvised sonic mines. Ramos covered the flank, his shots coordinated with heartbeat-level precision. Rivas directed everything, calm in the eye of chaos. And Veshka watched it all. When one drone unit tried to flank them using cloaked units, Veshka shouted a warning, before the humans even noticed. He'd adapted. Quickly, they turned the tide again. Back at the command center, Koromak stood before a flickering feed showing the SEALs and Veshka together, standing amid scorched jungle and ruined drones. They are not warriors, his adjutant muttered bitterly. They are survivors. Koromak stared at the screen, eyes hard. Then we must decide, he said, whether survival is weakness. Dawn arrived with a vengeance. Not sunlight, but fire. The simulation's next phase had begun, and the battlefield no longer played fair. Artificial quakes shattered the jungle floor. Rivers boiled with toxic nanites. Chameleon drones now deployed chemical lures that mimic seal pheromones, a dirty trick. Considering none of the humans knew they had pheromones worth mimicking. Rivas ducked beneath a collapsed tree trunk as a rail spike embedded itself in the bark behind her. Tell me this isn't a glitch, she said, sweat streaking through a layer of dirt and nano-dust. Wrench's voice crackled in over comms, distracted. Negative LT. This is deliberate. The AI is rewriting the rules. Terrain's become a combatant. Hell of a learning curve, Spook muttered, shimmying down a vine-strewn cliff. It's watching us and copying us. Kind of flattering in a psychotic murderbot kind of way. Or we're the virus. Ramos offered from his perch above a canyon pass. And it's evolving antibodies. Rivas tapped her temple, bringing up the latest scan. Red alerts bloomed across the map. The drones weren't just reacting now. They were anticipating. Change of plan, she said. We stop trying to outfight this thing. We outthink it. They regrouped in an ancient Dravari ruin. Stone arches overgrown with moss, half-sunken statues watching like blind sentinels. It wasn't on any map. Spook had found it during a recon sweep. Trusted a spot cover where others saw rocks. I say we go full chaos, Wrench said, laying out salvage drone parts like a mad scientist puzzle. No patterns. No predictability. Randomized attack vectors. Feedback loops. Noise. I'm in, Spook added, her grin sharp. I've got 3 decoy pods, a cloaking net, and some ideas that'll definitely get me court-martialed. Veshka stood off to one side, listening carefully. He had said little since joining them, observing, absorbing. Your people follow rules, Ramos said gently, approaching him. You don't have to unlearn discipline. Just learn to bend it. I used to believe flexibility was weakness, Veshka replied, voice low. Now I wonder if it's the only path to survival. Close enough, Rivas said. You in? The Dravari warrior hesitated, then clasped his fist to his chest. I am. They move like echoes, not soldiers. Spook hacked the jungle's holographic generators and filled the ravines with flickering images of fleeing seals. The drones chased ghosts while she buried mines in their path. Some real, some duds. The enemy wasted energy second-guessing. Ramos used reflective surfaces to scatter heat signatures. His rifle shots came from impossible angles, always one step ahead. The AI shifted patrols to match him, then fell into a trap wrench had wired with proximity-reactive EMPs. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't clean. But it was working. The drone started glitching. Patterns became erratic. Koromak, watching from command, leaned forward, eyes narrowed. They've destabilized the program, the adjutant muttered. No, Koromak said. They've confused us. Hours later, the seals hit the core tower, a hulking obsidian structure buried in the jungle's heart, crawling with drone sentries. This was the simulation's brain. Destroy it, and the war game would end. Straight assault suicide, Wrench said. This place is a fortress. So, we don't go straight, Rivas replied. Veshka stepped forward. The stone ruins, they were built above ancient aqueducts. Still intact. We use them. Everyone stared. You've been holding out on us, Spook said, impressed. I adapt, Veshka replied, a hint of pride in his voice. They entered the tower to the dark belly of the earth, crawling through cracked tunnels slick with condensation and dust. Rivas led, her sidearm low and steady, each footstep measured. Halfway through, the AI sprung its final card. Drones poured into the tunnel behind them, cutting off escape. They hadn't anticipated this deep a learning curve, or that it would use desperation as bait. No time for finesse, Rivas growled. Wrench. He handed her a sphere of blinking lights. Core overload. Timer set. You've got 10 minutes. I'm going with her, Veshka said. Stepping up. No, Rivas said. I started this with you. I end it. Rivas met his gaze. For a moment, neither spoke. Fine. Let's light this candle. They reached the tower core, pulsing with synthetic energy, humming with raw threat. Rivas planted the bomb. Drones closed in, fast. Veshka turned, drew his blade. Go. I leave no one. Rivas snapped. Then we fight. Back to back, human and alien held the line. Metal shrieked. Sparks flew. The seconds stretched thin. And then detonation. A blinding flash. A sound like reality tearing in half. Later, they awoke in the debrief chamber. The simulation had ended. They were bruised, singed, but alive. Koromak stood before them, flanked by silent warriors. You broke our simulation, he said. Bent every rule. Shattered every metric. Rivas sat up, wincing. So we pass? No, he said. You changed the test. He looked at Veshka. You changed us. The room was silent. Then Rivas smiled. Good. The debrief hall was quiet, not with silence, but with stillness. The kind that fills a room when everyone's thinking the same thing, but no one dares speak it aloud. Rivas stood before the Dravari High Council, posture straight despite the bandage on her ribs and the grime still on her uniform. The rest of her team, Wrench, Spook, Ramos, and Veshka, waited behind her. No medals, no ceremony, just tension. Across from them, Koromak spoke. Our simulations have tested thousands of warriors. No species has ever destabilized a core AI. No one has ever forced it to rewrite its own parameters. Spook leaned over to Wrench and whispered, Do we get a plaque or at least a coffee mug for that? Sure, he muttered. Let the grown-ups talk. Koromak continued. You shattered every convention of honorable warfare. You disrespected boundaries, abused terrain, weaponized unpredictability. Guilty, Rivas said. All counts. And yet, Cormac paused, eyeing Veshka. You succeeded. Against every calculation, against our most advanced systems, you won. Rivas tilted her head. That was the mission, wasn't it? It was, the Dravari commander admitted. But the mission was designed to be unwinnable. Now Wrench laughed. You really should have told us that before we rigged a microwave into an EMP. The High Council conferred in quiet tones. Eventually, one stepped forward. A regal female with skin like onyx and eyes like twin suns. We did not expect you to show us who we are, she said. But you have, and more importantly, who we might become. Veshka stepped beside Rivas. He was in full Dravari armor again, but it no longer fit like a second skin. It looked looser, less rigid. We are taught that strength is found in discipline, he said, but I have learned that true strength lies in adaptation. He turned to his people. They do not fear failure. They expect it and prepare to survive it. There was a murmur among the council members. Not all approval, not all resistance. Progress rarely came without friction. Later, aboard the Earthship Sierra Valkyrie, the SEALs gathered around the mission table, plates of half-eaten MREs and warm protein sludge between them. So, unofficially, we just broke an alien training program, Spook said, kicking her boots up on the bench. And officially, we may have taught a warrior race how to improvise. What could possibly go wrong? They'll probably turn on each other trying to apply it wrong, Wrench said, tinkering with a fragment of drone cortex. Or use it to innovate in horrifying new ways. We might have accidentally upgraded our next enemy. Or our next ally, Ramos said softly. Everyone looked at him. Think about it, he continued. They've always respected raw strength. But now they've seen what human strength really is. Creativity, resilience, chaos. Rivas nodded. We didn't teach them to fight like us. We showed them they could. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Wrench added, also, I stole one of their coffee makers. Alien espresso, game changer. They met Cormac one last time on the surface of the Dravari moon, under a sky thick with stars and electric storms. The commander stood alone, helmet off, his expression unreadable. I've recommended Veshka for command, he said. There will be resistance, but also respect. He carries something new now. An infection, Spook joked. A perspective, Cormac corrected. He looked at Rivas. Would you return? Rivas raised a brow. For another suicide simulation? No, for collaboration. Ramos stepped forward. You want a joint program? Eventually. But first, we must rethink our doctrines. Burn the rule books. Perhaps even write new ones, together. Wrench whistled low. From dishonorable apes to help us rewrite our entire military structure. That's one hell of a mood swing. Cormac didn't smile, but his nod was a gesture of immense respect in Dravari culture. Humanity is dangerous, he said, not because of power, but because of possibility. Rivas turned to her team. You good with that? Spook popped a piece of dried fruit into her mouth. I'm in, as long as I get first pick of their war toys. Wrench shrugged. I want access to their data cores. For science. Also mischief. Ramos just gave a quiet nod. And Veshka? He stepped forward, stood between both commanders, alien and human. I will build a bridge, he said. And if others refuse to cross it, I will carry them. Cormac placed a hand on his shoulder. Then may your steps echo. As they lifted off, the Dravari base shrinking beneath them, Rivas stood at the viewing port. The stars streaked by. Think they'll change? She asked. Spook appeared beside her, unwrapping a stolen alien ration bar. They already have. Ramos joined them, gazing out. We didn't just survive a test. We rewrote it. Wrench chimed in from the back, holding up his jury-rigged coffee machine. And I, for one, welcome our over-caffeinated alien friends. The crew laughed, and somewhere in the dark, a new chapter began. Not just for Earth, not just the Dravari, but for whatever came next. Because in the end, humans had one rule: win, no matter what.